What if the person you were taught to fear ends up saving your life? In America, race has divided people for centuries. But this story proves one powerful truth. Hate is a choice, and humanity is real. America, we call it the land of freedom, the land of dreams, and the land of opportunity. But beneath this shimmering surface lies a much more complicated and often painful history. A history of race, injustice, and deep-seated misunderstanding that continues to shape the nation today. But this isn't just a story from the history books. It's a story that plays out every single day in the lives of ordinary people. And today, I want to share one of those stories with you. In a bustling American city, two men, Jack and Marcus, worked in the same towering office building. They were part of the same corporate landscape, breathing the same recycled air. Yet they lived in entirely different worlds. Jack was a white American, raised in a comfortable middle-class suburb. He was taught to believe in the American dream, that hard work leads to success, and that the system, for the most part, is fair. He wasn't a hateful person, not by his own definition. He just absorbed the messages that were all around him. The news reports, the movies, the subtle jokes, the unspoken warnings from family. Over time, these messages painted a picture in his mind, a subconscious narrative that told him, be careful. Certain people are dangerous. Then there was Marcus, a Black American, whose family history was a living testament to the other side of that American dream. His ancestors had endured the brutalities of slavery. His grandparents had fought for basic civil rights during segregation, and his parents had navigated a world filled with systemic barriers and quiet discrimination. Marcus was brilliant, hardworking, and ambitious. But he carried a heavy burden, the weight of generations of pain and the constant awareness that, for many people, his skin color would always be the first thing they saw. The story he carried was different. No matter what you achieve, some people will never see you as an equal. So Jack and Marcus coexisted. They walked the same hallways, rode the same elevators, and probably grabbed coffee from the same machine. Their paths crossed a dozen times a day, but they never truly connected. There was an invisible wall between them, built not with bricks and mortar, but with centuries of history, stereotypes, and fear. They didn't hate each other personally. How could they? They didn't even know each other. What they disliked, what they feared, were the caricatures, the stories, the projections they had been taught to see in each other. Jack saw a potential threat. Marcus saw potential prejudice. And so they remained strangers to ships passing in the night, silent and separate. This quiet, invisible division could have gone on forever. But one evening, everything changed. The workday was over, and the streets were filled with the usual rush of people heading home. Suddenly, the ordinary city noise was shattered by the unmistakable, terrifying sound of gunshots. Panic erupted. People screamed, dropped their bags, and ran for cover. It was chaos. And in the middle of that chaos, Jack felt a searing pain in his side and collapsed onto the cold pavement. He was shot. Blood began to pool around him, warm and dark against the concrete. For a moment, the world seemed to freeze. People stared, horrified, paralyzed by fear. No one moved. No one knew what to do. Everyone was a bystander, locked in their own survival instinct. Everyone, except Marcus. As Marcus was running for safety like everyone else, he glanced back. He saw a familiar face, a colleague from the office, lying on the ground, bleeding. In that split second, everything else fell away. The stereotypes, the history, the invisible wallet, all vanished. He didn't see a white man. He saw a human being in desperate need of help. Without a second thought, without calculating the risk, Marcus turned and ran back into the danger zone. He rushed to Jack's side, tearing off his own jacket to press against the wound, trying to staunch the bleeding. His voice was steady as he yelled for someone to call 911, giving the dispatcher their exact location. He stayed with Jack, his hand firmly pressed on the wound, whispering words of reassurance. "Stay with me. Help is coming. Just stay with me." He didn't let go. He didn't leave his side, not even for a second, until the sirens grew louder and the paramedics arrived to take over. Marcus didn't just walk by. He didn't just call for help and run. He saved Jack's life. A few days later, Jack woke up in a sterile white hospital room. He was alive. The first thing he saw when his eyes fluttered open was a figure sitting in the chair beside his bed. It was Marcus, the man he had ignored every day. The man his subconscious had labeled as dangerous. The man who, by every logical measure of self-preservation, should have run away and left him to die. But he was here, quietly waiting. Jack's voice was barely a whisper, raspy and weak. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you help me?" Marcus looked up from his phone, his expression unreadable. He could have said so many things. He could have talked about heroism, about doing the right thing. But instead, he said something simple, yet profoundly powerful. "Because before I am black," he said quietly, "and before you are white, we are human." In that moment, something inside Jack broke. It wasn't the pain from his wound. It was the shattering of a lifetime of prejudice. Tears welled up in his eyes and streamed down his face. He wasn't crying from pain or relief, but from a sudden, overwhelming sense of shame and clarity. The invisible wall he had lived behind his entire life had just been demolished by a single act of kindness. He finally understood the problem was never Marcus. The problem was never the color of someone's skin. The problem was the system, the stories, the lies passed down from one generation to the next, poisoning hearts and minds. This story, while fictional, represents a fundamental truth about the racial divide in America and around the world. It didn't start with Jack and Marcus. It started centuries ago. It's a legacy of slavery, segregation, economic injustice, and systemic violence that has created deep wounds that have never fully healed. We see the symptoms everywhere in statistics about wealth, healthcare, and the justice system. But we often fail to see the root cause, a system designed to divide us. So, what is the solution? It's not simple, but maybe it starts with what happened in that hospital room. It starts with understanding. It starts with conversation. It starts with recognizing our shared humanity. Because when life is truly on the line, when someone is bleeding on the pavement, no one asks about your political party, your income, or your race. The only thing that matters is that you are a human being in need of help. That fundamental instinct to help, to connect, to save, that is the core of who we are. The divisions are what we learn. Skin color is something you can see from 100 feet away, but hatred, kindness, fear, and courage, those things live inside the heart. You can't see them. You can only know them through action. Marcus's actions spoke louder than any stereotype ever could. He chose humanity over history. This story isn't just about Jack and Marcus. It's about all of us. We all have our own stories we've been taught, our own invisible walls. The challenge is to look past them, to see the human being on the other side. If this story made you think, if it resonated with you, please share it. Because real, lasting change doesn't begin with new laws or policies, as important as they are. It begins with awareness. It begins with conversations. It begins with one person choosing to see another, not as a label, but as a fellow human being. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going.